Hello, everyone. This is recording number 16 for Aristotle, a class on the Nicomachean Ethics. Today's topic is whether Aristotle should count as a particularist. That is a contested and widely debated question. So, what is particularism? Or more specifically, what is it in the context of discussions about Aristotle's ethics? Here's a picture of the best person as it is envisaged in particularism. The thought is that this is someone who has phronesis, practical wisdom, and you can only have that if you also have the excellences of character. So the person has both. And now you think of that person walking into a situation, and the person perceives what she should do in this particular situation. Now, I will describe this in slightly more theoretical terms with regard to the metaphysics of action. The picture involves the claim that situations in which we act are particulars. They are not instances of types of situations, they are particulars. And with regard to the epistemology, as it were, of how you figure out what you should be doing, or how the best person does that, the proposal says that this person can perceive what she should do. And that involves all sorts of sensibilities and so on. Now, you might think that, well, yes, Aristotle does say things that support this picture. So he says, for example, that actions are situated in a domain of particulars and that situations are particulars. And the kind of go-to place on this topic is Book 3, Chapter 1. And he also sometimes talks as if the best person perceives what she should do. And scholars who want to emphasize this idea often refer to the end of Book 2. So now the question is that sufficient to classify him as a particularist? In these discussions, the, as it were, contrast position is universalism. And there the thought would be, well, situations are instances of types of situations, and there are universal rules, and there are rules that are, as it were, fits for types of situations. So in a given situation, you have to figure out what type of situation it is, and then you need to figure out which rule is the right one. Then you apply that rule. So that is, as it were, the contrast account here. Now, it seems pretty obvious that Aristotle is not a universalist thus described. It is less obvious whether we should ultimately say that he is a particularist, even though, as I already said, he seems to share important ideas with the position that we call particularism. Now, why might we hesitate? One reason is that the metaphysics of action, as it is described in particularism, does not seem to acknowledge Aristotle's, for the most part, framework. It proceeds as if situations are merely particulars. And while that is correct from Aristotle's point of view, it is not the only thing that he says about the sphere of action. He also says that the sphere of action shows these, for the most part, patterns or regularities. And earlier we used the example of, let's say, parents saying to a child, when we run into people, say hello to them, otherwise they might be offended. Now, that is not a necessary regularity. Someone might not be offended. But it is also not a kind of random or coincidental thing for someone to be offended if you don't say hello to them. It is something that has to do with human psychology, with interactions, and with patterns that we find in these domains. So you might think that particularism, as it were, under-describes the metaphysics of the sphere of action by only saying that situations are particulars. and neglecting that there are also these, for the most part, regularities. And I want to leave you with the question of whether there is, as it were, an in-between position between particularism and universalism, and whether that should be ascribed to Aristotle and how it could be developed.